Oh, there you are. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Shannon. How are you?
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So tell us about this case.
Basically, unfortunately, in 2005, the client was basically fleeing from law enforcement. There was a police officer, according to the testimony, and also in court for criminal court, who happened to be harassing people in the Newark, New Jersey area.
And this was a white police officer and a black person fleeing, which is not unheard of in these days.
And this particular officer has actually harassed him in the past. And actually, just to let everyone know, the police officer, as a result of what happened, was demoted and then afterwards eventually lost his job. He was a sergeant, actually, in the police force.
Okay.
As a result of putting people's lives in danger. But he was basically trying to get him, there was no violations of law, basically, that the client happened. He just happened to go after him. My client in court also testified that he was wrong. He should have stopped when the officer told him to stop. He should not have fled. But there was no drugs, no nothing found on him. But as a result of him fleeing, he ends up getting into an accident and then ran over, and a child ended up dying who was 12 years old. He was convicted eventually. He was convicted in 2008. The event happened in 2005, but there was a trial.
And he went he went to trial, and he spent, I guess, a decade. He's an aggravated felon, manslaughter, I would assume.
Interestingly enough, the death by no, it's death by auto. This is in Jersey. So death by auto, somewhat equivalent to manslaughter. There's no intent. So what I argued in court were several things. One is that he's a green card holder. So he's had a green card since he was 11 years old. He entered the United States on a green card.
Did his mother ever try to become a citizen before 18? Because that's usually the route we go. You know, that he's a citizen.
That was what I argued in court, because that was the issue. I argued for months, and we were waiting on a FOIA, basically a Freedom of Information Act, the records from the mother, because the mother did file before he turned 18. And so what I was arguing in court is that as a result of an excessive delay by USCIS, you know, he aged out, and that should not be the fault of the client.
So the mother must have filed when he was 16 or something.
The mother filed when he was 17, but unfortunately, when I got the FOIA back, which is basically a warning to everyone. When I got the FOIA back, the mom did file before he turned 18 at 17 years old. But the problem is that they sent it back to her because she basically didn't appropriately file it. And then when she sent it back, it was after. And so what I said to her and to the judge, you know, had an attorney did it, we would have done it appropriately.
Correct. And I just want to say two things. So just a little background. If the mother had become a citizen before the son turned 18, the son would have been an automatic U.S. citizen and would not have been in the deportation process. And, you know, and unfortunately the mother, Shannon was blaming immigration for the delay in making her a citizen, but for the delay, this would have been, but the delay was caused by the mother filling out the forms.
So Shannon was just making a case.
Right. So what happened?
So normally we win those cases when there's been a delay by immigration, and they basically will say that each person is a U.S. citizen. What ended up happening is that we argued that the death by auto was not an aggravated felony, which the judge agreed with, but basically stated that evading law enforcement was an aggravated felony.
So running from the police is an aggravated felony. Death by auto is not. It's crazy
because
how
he didn't have the intent.
Right. It's crazy how certain things that you would think are the aggravated felony. Here's a kid.
We
died.
We went over that the other day.
Right. Kid died. Not an aggravated felony, which is a very good argument. Okay, but evading law enforcement, which is just literally running away from the cops, that prevents you from, as an 11-year-old, from ever living here in America again.
Right.
So what happened?
And so what we ended up doing is that the client is bisexual. And so we argued in court that...
And where's he from?
Jamaica.
Okay.
And we argued under the Convention Against Torture that he basically has a right to remain in the United States, because if he returns back to Jamaica, he will be tortured, and that the government plays a role in that based on the laws on the books.
Question for you, because we get this all the time. There's a difference between Convention Against Torture and asylum. We even had a call this morning where I kind of explained, I didn't get into as much detail as Shannon because we didn't have the time. Explain the difference, because those are two different things. In both instances, the only thing they have in common is both instances, I'm in danger if I go home. But what's the difference between Convention Against Torture and asylum?
There are many differences. I mean, asylum basically is, to a certain extent discretionary, and there are statutory bars for asylum. So, for example, my client at this point, he's not eligible for asylum. Number one, he did not file within 1 year. That's one of the requirements. You have to file within 1 year of entering the United States. There are some exceptions to that, but that's the standard rule. Also, there's statutory bars. So certain criminal convictions basically bar you from actually getting asylum. So there's been arguments about possession of child pornography is one of them. If you basically committed any type of drugs, it's basically a statutory bar. So there are just so many different types of what would be constituted as a particular serious crime that would bar you from getting asylum, even though you may warrant it.
So then Convention Against Torture would be what?
Convention Against Torture, and I just want to go back for asylum.
Sure.
Asylum, basically, you have to show there's a well-founded fear of persecution. So it's persecution. So what I tell people in the case law shows, it's a 1 in 10 chance or percent chance that you're basically going to be persecuted if you go back. For Convention Against Torture, you have to show that you will be tortured if you go back. And also you have to show that the government is going to play a role in that. So basically either they're actually inflicting the harm or they're turning a blind eye, as I try to argue in court.
And what people have to understand in both applications, it's not I'm going back to a dangerous country.
Right.
There are many dangerous countries out there where the United States deports people every day. Just because bullets are flying over your head and you got to take cover doesn't make that an asylum claim or a Convention Against Torture claim. In both instances, although asylum is persecution and the other one is the government is targeting you or they're acquiescing to the targeting of you, meaning that they're turning a blind eye to it, in both cases, someone's going after you particularly.
Yes, and it's very important, and also you have to basically show that especially for asylum, that somebody in your particular situation has a reasonable fear of persecution if they go back, and that's for asylum also. A low standard for asylum, but an extremely high standard for Convention Against Torture. Extremely difficult to win.
So he couldn't win the asylum because of his aggravated felony. He was barred from it, and he was also barred from it, and he was also barred for it because he didn't apply within the first year of entering America.
Right, he's a green card holder. That was correct.
Right. So what did you do instead? The Convention Against Torture. Tell us how that panned out for him.
Basically, I filed an I-589. We went into court. We argued that, number one, in Jamaica, the law states that you can be incarcerated up to 10 years if they find out that you are gay. They will also publish your name for anyone that is basically arrested.
Not if they find out, if you're caught in a gay act.
No.
Not if they find out.
If they find out you're gay, but on the book, you're saying in reality,
the Broadway law says if you're caught in a homosexual act.
Right,
not if they find out.
I mean, there's been situations, Squeeze, where, and I mean, J-Flag, which is the organization that tries to support gays in Jamaica. So we've argued, because that actually has been brought up in court. That's a really good point. Listen, how do they find out? How can they actually basically criminalize this? How will they be able to find these individuals? But you have people in the community who may know of this and will basically go to the police and make allegations. The police are certain.
I saw that.
Right, exactly.
That's an act right there.
Right, and so basically at that point, that's how they're being followed. I mean, Jamaica is one of the most homophobic countries, according to Time Magazine, according to all these country condition reports. So it's very well known that this happens in Jamaica.
So ultimately, because we only have about 3 or 4 minutes, and I have the mother of this, we could go on forever, but I have the mother of this client on the phone as well. Eventually, Shannon was able to prove all of this, and despite everything that happened, he was able to get Convention Against Torture. Doesn't give him his green card, it just allows him to live here.
And the other issue, I just want to point out, even though the judge granted, they refused to let him out of detention. They said that he was a danger to society. So now the family was really believed in us and basically asked what can be done, and we were going to file a habeas corpus. There's certain in federal court, in district court. So there's certain steps. After the 90-day custody review, I filed a report with immigration and said, release the client. He's not a danger to society. He's seeking therapy once he gets out. He has a job when he gets out. He's going to mom and his 2 children when he gets out, and he cannot be returned anywhere. And so they let him out a week after I filed that.
And when did this happen? When did this happen?
The crime or the actual habeas?
Actual habeas that he got out.
This was basically the end of last year.
Okay, wonderful. Fantastic. We only have about a minute. I have the mother of this son on. Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Hello there. How are you?
All right,
Welcome
Squeeze,
to the
you have
Brad
any
Squeeze
questions
Show.
for this young mother or older mother? I don't know who she is, but
How do you feel about the fact that Shannon did an excellent job in handling the case with your son?
Well, I feel I'm happy and I'm blessed, and I thank Shannon so much for the job. She did a very great job, and I'm grateful. I'm so thankful.
did you think your son was ever going to have a chance?
Yes, he's here.
Well, I assume no. But before you came to Shannon here at Spar and Bernstein, I assume you went to other lawyers, and maybe you didn't. Did you ever think in your head that your son was going to win this case?
No, I never think that. I went places before, and I never think that until when I came to Brad, and Brad said, yes, he will take up the case. And then I
handed it to Shannon, who did a wonderful job
Solid.
on behalf of Spar and Bernstein.
Job.
Yeah.
And I thank her for that. I thank her so much.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad it worked out for your son, Shannon.
Yeah.
Fantastic job. We only have about 45 seconds to go. So we're going to
Great
put
job,
you on
Shannon,
hold.
as usual.
Mother of the
Thank
client.
you.
She doesn't want to let her name out, so she's just mother of the client.
Right.
All right. Thank you very much, mother of the
welcome.
client.
You're blessed.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
Blessings. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Shannon. Fantastic job.
Thank you. Have
Fantastic
a great day.
job.
Thank
Solid.
you.
Coming on.
Excellent job.
Yeah.